Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Leadership Satsang. I'm your leadership coach, Yukti Kapoor Bhendirata, thanking you for joining me live today. This is the last Tuesday of the month, and you know what happens the last Tuesday? We keep an open house, which means it's absolutely open floor for you all to ask whatever questions that you may have, whatever challenges you're facing, wherever you feel you're getting stuck, something holding you back, some questions which are probably not so clear to you in your mind, and the answers are maybe too many or none at all. Those are the kind of questions I would want you to bounce off on these last Tuesdays of every month. Every time I kind of come closer to the 100th episode, I get that feeling of celebration. It's almost like in my head, I'm amazed and also happy about the fact that we've covered a long journey. And while it's not the end of it, but it's an important milestone. And what will make it really, really special if you all join us for the 100th episode. So please be there. It will be on 17th of December. Today is 97, so in 3 weeks, we'll be celebrating our 100th episode, and it would mean a lot to have you all there joining in for this celebration, this little celebration, right? One step at a time. That's all that matters. All right. So before I open the floor for your questions, let us bring ourselves into the present moment by chanting Om as we always do. You take a nice deep breath in and make sure that your feet are firmly rested on the floor so that you build that connection with Mother Earth and you're able to balance your energies. Keep your spine straight. Relax your shoulders. You can keep the glasses aside. Take a nice deep breath in and breathe out. Nice deep breath in and out. Take another breath in. And breathe out. Just take this moment to come back to yourself, to your heart, to your home. Just for a moment, let's forget about the world and the many responsibilities and the many, many stories we get stuck with. Just disconnect from all those stories for a bit and reconnect with our own breath. Feel the air as it enters your body when you inhale. And feel the chest going down as you exhale. See if you can breathe from your belly a little deeper. And see if you can inhale and exhale with the same amount of time. The same count for inhale and the same for exhale. You're inhaling as long as you're exhaling. And when you find that balance, prepare yourself to chant Om 5 times. Please feel free to say it out loud in your space if you can. I'll keep that count for you. In the next breath, we will start the chant together. Shanti. 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 Ready? Please rub the palms together. You can feel warmth between your hands and then gently place them on your eyes, nose, and ears, and face, and neck, and shoulders. Slowly come back. And as you do, please let me know that you hear 100% and which location are you joining in from today? Which part of the world are you in right now? Let's have that in the chat. Very good evening, Suman, PC. So good to have you here. Good evening, dear. Let us hear from you. Which part of the world are you in right now? As you confirm your 100% presence in the room. So let's see, which part of the world are you joining in from? Dia is from Indore. Of course, MR Indiran from Bangalore. Good to have you here, Indi. Yeah, PC, you're in Nepal. Tushar from Kutch. Wonderful, wonderful. Welcome, welcome everyone. So good to have you here. Naveen from Shillong, is that right, Naveen? Naveen's joining us from Shillong. And that's fantastic. Super. All right, so as we know, this is a Q&A special, which means I'm right here to give my A to your Q. Whatever is your question, bring it on. Let's have it in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a point of view, a perspective that might help you to overcome your challenge, right? And while you share that, let me tell you that facing challenges, having challenges is a sign of growth. You cannot possibly face a challenge when you are already in your comfort zone, isn't it? Because when you're in your comfort zone, you're already too comfortable. You're not trying anything new. And unless you try something new, unless you push your limit, you're not really looking at any challenges. Even if those challenges come from other people, the challenges come our way when we are willing to expand, when we are willing to grow, when we're willing to do more. So if you're facing a challenge in your personal or professional life, first congratulate yourself and then know that you don't have to deal with that challenge by yourself. You've got a coach in me, you've got friends around you, you have a lot of other people, hopefully some mentors too, who can give you the guidance that we need. So this whole struggle that we keep to ourselves is so unnecessary sometimes. And we don't need to go through it by ourselves if we have that guidance, that support around us. And that does not mean creating dependency. It just means having the humility to be open to receiving support. And being supported is what we need to be able to apply our intelligence and crack that problem, that situation we are facing, maybe by ourselves. But to be able to get to that point of balance, we sometimes need that emotional, physiological support. And it's perfectly okay to get that at a physiological level or a psychological level, at a mental level, at an emotional level. Whatever support we need, we should waste no time and put our hand up and ask for it. Right? So thank you so much for being here and putting out your questions, because that in a way is seeking support. And I really do appreciate and respect people who have the humility to do so. All right, so let's have a quick look at what's happening in the comments right there. If you have any questions, I would love to see them here. Suman from Patiala, wonderful Suman, thank you for joining in. All right, PC, that was a real quick one. We have a question here from Prakash Chand Upadhyay from Nepal, and he says, how to maintain good relations and office decorum with a difficult boss? Wow, now that's a very important question to look at, right? We all have faced difficult people in our lives sometime or another, isn't it? If you have, then just say me in the comments, please. Especially if it's like a difficult boss that you're talking about, then just say me square. Okay. So me, because yeah, there are lots of difficult people we come across in life. And then there are also a few difficult bosses. And if boss is a difficult one, it becomes very, very difficult to enjoy our job, the work that we do. It becomes difficult to bring your true potential out because you lose the motivation to give your best. And that is the impact that we can have on each other, right? So let's remember that as leaders, that we are not just there to do work. As we do what we do, we are also impacting people around us with our personality, our character, our behavior. So we've got to take that responsibility. The boss who's looking difficult to you, right, might also be somebody facing difficulties in his or her own life. They're all people like you and me. So expecting perfection or thinking of boss to be a utopian leader is a mistake that we make. We've got to understand that every person is an individual with imperfections like you have, like I have. Right? So as much as we need to find ways to connect with different kind of people, we also need to know that there will always be a few imperfections that we will have to deal with. And the way to deal with that is to first accept it. I don't even know what are the imperfections you're looking at right now, PC, in your boss, and I will come to that in a bit, but there will be a few. And I can say that we're like money back guarantee, right? Because we all have imperfections, and you too. You have, and I have, and everyone does. So we need to accept people as who they are instead of wanting to change them as who we want them to be or we expect them to be as leaders. And that is what makes it easier for us to find a way to create a win-win or a compromise where we can have an environment that is conducive for working together, right? Now, let's look at your question once again. How to maintain good relations and office decorum with a difficult boss. And now let's break this question in two. One is maintaining a good environment, and the other is with a difficult boss. Let's look at the second one first. As you call your boss a difficult person, I'm curious to know what about him or her makes it difficult for you to work with. What about this person makes you call this person a difficult person? And while you put your mind to that, I want to put out another fact that nobody wants to be difficult. Isn't that true? Why would you want to wake up every morning, leave your beautiful family behind, go to work just to be difficult to a few people? You don't want to do that. You don't do that with any intention whatsoever. But you land up behaving in a certain manner that makes it difficult for other people to work with you, sometimes even tolerate you. And that is why I've always said that leadership is a responsibility. It's a responsibility that every individual needs to take upon themselves. Responsibility to be a better version of yourself. Some of you who are here understand and realize that, and that's what brings you here to these sessions every week. But there are many, many people out there who should be here, who should indulge in these kind of conversations and learning, but they haven't yet found a way. They haven't found their path to these kind of forums. So how do we then create that environment which restores our sanity, helps us to be sane, mature, and give us the motivation to keep doing what we are doing? Now, here is what I want you to know, PC. And of course, if I had more information, more data points about your boss, we could get more specific with the solution. But given that a difficult boss could mean different things to different people, and whatever it might mean to you, maintaining a good relation with somebody you report into is necessary. And I see that you understand that, and therefore you're asking this question: how do I maintain a good relation with a difficult boss? So step number one, please know that your boss is just another human with lots of imperfections. And the first thing you need to do to start building a good relationship with that person is to accept them for their imperfections. So please write down things that you think are imperfect about this person, that you do not appreciate about this person. And as you make a list of this, look at them one more time and say, I accept this person for this quality he has. And I accept this person for this another quality that he has. because that's the first thing to do. We cannot fight against something that is not within our circle of influence. You cannot change anything about the person unless the person is willing. I know you know that, but it's important that we are reminded of it sometimes. Once in a while, we need to remind ourselves of the fact that peace lies within the circle of our influence. And whichever way you see this person to be is who he is outside your circle of influence. So what is the first step? Write down the imperfections that you see in this person. Step number 2, accept these imperfections, knowing that everyone is imperfect. Step number 3, please know that this is a professional relationship. And together you've come for a purpose which is higher than mutual admiration. You with me? We might not admire each other. And as much as we would want to admire our leaders. But sometimes we meet managers who are playing leadership role, and they might not have the qualities that we want to see in them. But that does not take away the fact that we've come together for a purpose. And that purpose is to achieve that vision, that goal set for the organization we call as a bigger picture. And that bigger picture requires your effort and his. So we all need to bring our bit to the table and do what we need to do to be able to contribute towards the bigger picture. So we don't need to be friends in this process, but we can still find ways to be friendly. So when you want to develop a good relationship with people you don't like personally, you can keep those relationships restricted to courtesy, friendliness, and transactions. Every relationship cannot bring in the same level of intensity, and it doesn't have to. We cannot decide the intensity of our relationships, right? They are just created. They are felt. Intensity is felt. So maybe we don't have that intensity in this equation, but that doesn't take away our ability to work with people, because you know what? We can't choose people we work with, not in this organization, not anywhere else. So the way to deal with this kind of a person would be to have direct communication, to be professional about whatever you are committing to do on either side. Use emails as a way to document that understanding. Create an equation with your super boss as well. I'm giving you strategy after another PC, so just listen carefully, right? Any which way in an organization beyond a point to get to the next level would require your networking skills. And networking is not about going to some industry events and distributing your visiting cards to unknown people. Networking should happen within the organization that you work with as well, right? There is a web of relationships that you need to develop. If you fail to do that, you are totally dependent on one or two people and their perception of you. Now, you can bang your head against the wall, proving that you've been misunderstood. It has little or no value if nobody else has found any motivation to understand anything about you, let alone misunderstand you. You know what I'm saying? Right? So we've got to develop a relationship web. We've got to have relationships with people outside the people we report into, we call as bosses. Right? Now, when you have these relationships with multiple people, there are different perceptions of you which can challenge the perception your boss has. And so this one person doesn't hold all the weightage to have a say in your career, right? And so that other people will have views too, and they also have to be considered, right? So make sure that you develop your relationships with other people, including your super boss or your boss's peers, as much as you need to have good relationship with your own peers as well. Every organization is nothing but a group of people, right? And when people come together is when they're able to align their effort towards a vision and make something happen. So organization is not bricks and cement, right? It's made by people like you and me. And there are all sorts of people in this world, PC, and we might not always enjoy the kind of people we have around us. But that's what leadership is all about, isn't it? To be able to connect with all sorts of people. Remember, I always say that we need to have a quality of water to be able to adapt ourselves, take the shape of the vessel we poured into. That's our quality. And that vessel sometimes is also includes our seniors, we need to adapt into their style and personalities. That doesn't change who you are. But we do need to bring in that flexibility to accept people as who they are without feeling the need to change them to our taste, to our liking, to our expectations. So remind yourself of the bigger picture. Remind yourself of the fact that you want to be there to make contribution, to add value in your own way, and go beyond this one relationship with this person. See if you can have discussions in a group instead of one-on-one. Avoid one-on-one conversations to the extent that you can, so that there are witnesses to whatever discussions are happening. Right? I don't know the gravity of the situation, PC. I'm just kind of putting it out in every dimension, hoping that one of this will strike for you. And that will be exactly what you're probably facing right now with this person. I'll remind you again, the start point is not to start putting things on email and having meetings in a group. The start point is to understand what makes you call this person a difficult person. Knowing that no one wants to be difficult. What is it that you can do from your end to be understood in a better way and to be willing to understand this person as well? How willing are you to drop your judgments? How willing are you to see the positive side of the most negative person that you're dealing with? Because there is a positive side to all of us. No matter how big a monster we might appear to be for a few, if they are willing to look at us as human, they will see a positive side to us because there is one. And if you focus on that, remember, your energy flows where your attention goes. If the attention is all about, this is not okay with this person, this is what I don't like about this person, this is when the person makes my life difficult, this is when the person is unfair and unreasonable to me, that's where the energy is going. How about directing it to qualities that you could admire about this person? Genuinely admire. Maybe there is just one that you will be able to see right now. And as you work on that willingness, you might be able to see a few more. And as you bring your attention to that, your energy flows in that direction. And you will find a common ground where you're able to work together, maybe not as friends, but in friendly terms, with a conducive environment, where we have mutual respect, if not admiration for each other. I hope this opened up something for you and it gave you the answer that you're looking for. Thank you so much for asking that question, because it is such a real life situation that we all face sometimes in our career, right? Sometime or another, we will be working with people, whom we probably don't like as much. And then we remind ourselves of the fact that there is always something to like. There is always something good about the worst person that you've probably met in your life. Yeah, I hope that was useful. If it was, please put it in the comments, PC. I would like to know, what have you taken away and what's opened up for you? All right, Ritesh, so good to have you here. Thank you for joining in. Pulkit, so happy to see you here. Too many politics to make good relations. Yeah, politics kya hota hai? What is politics? And who creates this politics? Politics is a function of an insecure environment. Think about it. Think about it. There is trust deficit. And so we feel the need to bring in politics. And politics, by the way, as a word is not a bad word, because it's in fact another word for strategy. It's a strategic way of managing people. That's what politics is supposed to mean. We have started using it with a negative connotation. And so we think that politics is about somebody having some agenda against you. It's some conspiracy. It's like some people working against your favor. And we call that and understand that as politics. But that's not what it's supposed to mean, right? It is just a strategic way to manage people. And we need strategy at people management level as well. Just as how we need strategy at a business management level. We need to manage businesses, we need strategy, isn't it? We need to manage money, we need strategy. We need financial strategy there. We also need people strategy. And there is nothing too cunning about that. But the connotation is such that we feel that somebody is attacking us and there is some conspiracy going on. And we need to protect ourselves as if we are under attack all the time. And because we feel that, we are always defensive. And when we act defensive, other people are not able to reach out to us. You know what is defense, right? You have this wall between you and people because you feel the need to protect yourself. Hence, trust deficit. Hence, insecurity. Think about it. Whatever you're calling is politics, and people, the politicians in this scenario, might not even be thinking about you. Might not. I'm not saying that's always the scenario. Sometimes it's just here. And if it's there for real, and if there is some evidence that makes you believe that people are creating confusion and have contradictory views behind your back, let us open the space for more open conversations. Let's create more safety, a sense of safety in this environment, so that people feel that comfort to come and say what they want to say to you and not behind you. And at the same time, the way to bust a political environment is to not encourage it at the first place, not encourage gossips, not be a part of any conversation where somebody is discussing someone who's not in the room. Because if you have indulged in such a conversation, then you have contributed to this politics that you're complaining about. And I'm not just saying this for you, Pulkit. I'm just saying it in general because I hear so much of this, in my sessions and even in one-on-one sometimes. The question is, how do I deal with office politics? And my first question to that question is, where is politics? How do you see it? How do you sense it? How are you experiencing it? What does that look like to you? How do you know it exists? What does it mean to you? What would lack of politics mean to you? How would that look? What would be the environment if you were to say that there is no politics here? Think about it. And if you're clear about what that environment would be, what can you do today to contribute towards creating that environment? What can you do to create that environment where you think politics is not being used in a negative way, where you think there is more trust, where you think there is more openness for people to put out facts the way they are, respectfully, but honestly? How can you contribute to create that environment? And the higher you are in this corporate pyramid, that much more responsibility you will have to take to create the environment that you want. If this is not what you want, then how are you going to shift it to what you do want? Especially if you are higher up on the pyramid, because that's where you're also empowered. You have the position that you can leverage. There are many others who are suffering because of this culture, if that's the culture that we're talking about in the company, isn't it? And they probably are not empowered enough to do anything much about it, except for doing a few things they can and they must. And that is to answer the same set of questions I asked a while back about your own experience of politics and what are you calling as politics and why? And how are you going to contribute towards not creating such a culture that you cannot appreciate yourself? Right? So let's not be scared of something that is a figment of our own imagination. We have created it, isn't it? You and me, we have created this. We can change it. If it's not working for me, it's not working for you. It's not working for us. Let's change it to something that will work for us. It's as simple as that. We don't need to run away from this. A lot of people tell me, you know what, too much politics in this company, I can't work. And then I wonder, how will you ever know in a 30-minute discussion, which we call as interview, what are you stepping into next? Because if you have been indulging in gossiping in your previous organizations, even if it was a went out, and you felt that you're not saying anything wrong, and by the way, everybody feels so. Everybody, right? So if that's what you felt, that I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm actually saying the right things about this person who's a wrong person, that also counts for gossip. And that is also adding to politics. Because you don't know how the person you're speaking to is taking this information, how are they going to process this information, and how will this be reproduced elsewhere? You have no idea. You're just feeding in more content. And the more content you put into such a system, the worse it gets, because there is already lack of trust. There is already a deep sense of defense that people are operating from. And you feel defensive when you feel offended. When somebody attacks you is when you feel the need to defend yourself, isn't it? So if everybody around is getting defensive, which can sometimes look like being oversensitive, you can say that, you know what, this is kind of weird. People are so immature. थोड़ा सा भी कुछ बोल दो बुरा मान जाते. क्यों बुरा मान जाते? सब ऐसा बोलते हैं, वो बुरा नहीं मानते. Same person who is feeling bad about a comment that you made might not be as sensitive to someone else. Why is that person so sensitive towards you? Is because anything you say, any comment from you feels like a criticism to me. Why? Because I'm not feeling secure in this relationship. Maybe I'm feeling too judged. Maybe I feel like, I'll come out in the open, I'll be called out. Maybe I'm not doing anything actually. I'm just busy looking busy. And I'll be called out if I come out in the open. Are you understanding, right? So this entire sense of politics that we feel is not only our creation. Sometimes it is just an imagination. It's not even reality. But here is the thing. For whatever reason you experience it, the worst thing to do is to ignore it. A lot of people give this advice, and I disagree with the fact that, oh, ignore politics and it'll go away. No. Don't indulge in it. Yes, absolutely. Which means don't be a part of gossip. Don't do that. Don't add to content, right? Don't do that. But call out the need to have more open conversations. Right? So if I come and tell you, hey, Pulkit, this guy, PC is, not a very good person. He's not really adding too much value to the team. He just pretends to be busy. This is what I'm telling you, Pulkit. And then you look at me and say, yeah, Yukti, that's a very important point that you're raising. You know what? I think let's get PC over a cup of coffee and just bounce it off with him and see how he feels about it. That's it. If it's a concern, let's discuss it with the person it is concerned with. Otherwise, it is just a gossip. And you accepting it and listening to it is your contribution to it. Just because you're not saying it doesn't mean you're not a part of it. Right? I'm so glad you made that comment, Pulkit, because it's really, really important that we talk about office politics and we understand what it is and what it is not, and how we all are responsible for it, all of us, right? Everybody who's part of that environment, without an exception, if you see yourself as a victim, you are highly misunderstood, right? You're not. You're as much a part of it, and so is everybody else. All right, we all want to avoid an aggressive, unreasonable, unsupportive bosses. Absolutely, PC, totally agree with you. When there is a transition from corporate employment to entrepreneurship, there are lots of restlessness by parents. Yeah, how to manage that? Yeah, absolutely. Though I think that times are changing, Ritesh, but yes, entrepreneurship is an unexplored space, right? It's unfamiliar from the start. There is no brand name to cling on to, isn't it? There is no safety net. You're pretty much just taking that leap forward. It might take you onto another parallel surface or zoop down the valley. And that's a risk that you take, knowing that there is an intention and a reason and a purpose behind that leap. So the person who takes that leap forward is the one who needs to truly believe in their own reason for doing so. And everybody else, the friends and family, with love that binds us together, gives makes it our responsibility to provide the support that we can. And trust me, failures are not restricted to entrepreneurship. We fail even in a corporate environment, no matter how safe you might consider it to be. If you're not growing at the pace at which the company is growing, the organization is growing, your peers are growing in other organizations, that's also a failure in a way, isn't it? Isn't it? Gone are the days when you could stand still. You can't stand still anymore. Because if you're still, you're already behind because the world is moving ahead. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're here and the world is here with you, without you moving, the world moves ahead, and that means you're left behind. It's as simple as that. And that's happening in the corporate environment too. So if failure is what we fear, then we better just sit at home. Enjoy the couch, literally so. And if that's not where we belong, then we've got to come out. And then taking a leap towards an ambitious corporate career or a new idea that leads you towards entrepreneurship is just one of the many paths that one can take. Right? With that, we conclude today's session. That's all the time we have. I wish I could pick up more questions and go into more depth on each one of your amazing questions. Thank you so much for asking. And I do hope this was useful for you. If it was, then I would love to know what are you taking away and what has opened up from this discussion today. If you have another point of view and another way or strategy with which you understand politics and deal with it, or with which you understood and dealt with difficult bosses, please do bring that up in the comments and we all can learn from each other. With that, let's conclude today's satsang session. I will see you next week with another important insight in the space of leadership and spirituality. Till then, please take good care of yourself. Thank you so much for joining in. God bless you all.